So today we're going to make Candy Crush app using React. I have a container app here. It's just kind of a template that I set up with React apps, and I'm going to my app file. So I've imported. I know I'll be using the effect, use state. Yes, there's nothing. If I was to run it, just going to be a blank page. I can do a hello world. And see what that looks like. So npm start to run it up. Okay, hello world. So we know that it's currently displaying what it's supposed to do. We're going to get started. So I'm gonna start writing pseudocode. I follow a tutorial to build this Candy Crush app. This is my third time writing it. I rewrote it and added a few things. Now I'm doing it again for the video, but I want to add a pseudocode because I really think that helps to think via this series of kind of steps. So first I'm building the board, essentially the game board with a state variable that will store which it's going to be array to store the series of colors in my on my board. So basically it's going to be a grid 8x8, 8 color tiles per row, and there's going to be 8 rows, right? So 64 elements. So that's going to be the length. I'm going to do a 1D array here. And I'm using my CSS grid to display that into a 2D format, but the data itself is 1D, which is awesome. Okay, so I've created a constant file already that stores my constants. Trying to find it. Oh, I haven't actually, so I'm going to do that. So under my source, I'm gonna create a file that's called it's gonna store things like width, which is 8, export, constant width equal to 8, and export colors. It's going to be yellow, blue, green, purple. I think I'm gonna have 6 colors. What am I missing here? Green, orange. Okay, I'm missing one more. And is it gonna be pink? Pink. Okay. Yeah. So yellow, blue, green. Okay. So export constant colors. What else am I exporting? I am exporting, I believe that's all the constants I have. I also imported these images already, which will make total sense once you start showing a template. So I've created my constants file. It makes it a lot easier that to use it. So I'm going to import it like so. And capitalize constants. Like so. Then here I can actually use them. So in my, for example, I can just assign my imported constant, which is the object, and the property is colors, right? And I can also log it out. Colors. So that should show the array of colors. Okay, yep. So yellow, blue, awesome. So that's working. Go back to my file. Okay, so then I know I'm gonna need the color this number here. Lanes, there's 6 of them. And I'm definitely going to be using reds a lot. So I'm just going to assign that to a variable here so that I don't have to always write it so long. So just shorten it. So, and I definitely will need a state variable here. I'm going to call it candies. And with a setter, it's a very standard state, React state using the state hook. So of course, it's going to be an empty array to start with. And then, so with the board, I'm going to need, so I'm going to generate every tile of the board with a random color, right? I have 6 colors. So in order to do that, I need a helper function. I'm going to call it get ran. I'm passing, and it's, when I use it, I'm going to pass it 6, because I only have 6 random colors, but this function could generate any number. This function is, it's going to generate any number from 0 up to n. So if n is 6, it will be 0 up to 5. So to do that, I need to call the math floor, and inside giving the random function, I need to multiply that by n. So what this is doing is essentially, so the math.random would return any number from 0 to 1. Okay, 0 to 1, but does not include 1. But exclude 1. And when I multiply by n, right, it's, so if n is 6, it's going to be 0 to 6, so 0 to 5 point blah blah blah, not including 6 up to 6. And then when I apply math.floor, it would be returning 0 to 5, right? So that's what I want. And because I only have that's the maximum index of my colors, my colors array. So that's the getRand function here. And then I'm going to create function to create board. So in here, I'm going to set candies using my setter, and I'm going to, actually, I'm gonna just set a constant, and I'm gonna create an array of random colors, and it needs to have 64 members in the array. So you can create a brand new array using the new array object. And I just need to specify the length, which is width times width. So width is 18 here. I would need, it would become 64. And I do need to tell it to fill it with initial value, which is just an empty string. And then here's cool, what's cool about it, I'm gonna map it to the actual color. Notice I'm not passing anything in my map function, my callback. You know, for example, if I want to actually do something with the empty string, I would use, you know, like E or something, and then I can do stuff with E, but I'm not using it at all. So it's useless. So I just can pass no input to the callback, and I would simply just call my map it to the colors, but then I would call my get ran. Okay, get ran. So that's going to get me that random number. And remember, I'm passing in the n in here is actually the width, which is no, not width. It's the color num. Oops, which is 6. So let's do it. And now I'm going to use the setter to set the initial value with the newly created array, which is a series of colors. I'm going to call this function. But I need to wrap it in use effect because I only want to call it once. So use effect will allow you to specify the callback here. And if you want to only call it once, you can just pass it a empty array. These are the dependencies in this that whenever the dependency changes, it will call again. So it's going to call, use effect will run after the first render. But if you have dependency here, you also run again when dependency changes. In my case, I'm only running it one time, so I'm putting nothing in the dependency. So I'm going to run the wait port inside. So since I have nothing here, I just wanted to show my candies array here. So yeah, so that now my page should show just, yep, 64. Can't see it here, but there should definitely be 64. If you don't believe me, you can also show, oops, not what I want to do. Yeah, 64. Okay, so now I know that's working. So I have the state created that stores a series of randomized color. Now I want to create my CSS file to display the grid of 8 by 8. Okay. And so I've done that already. So in my index.css, I have my app class, which is a wrapper around the board div, which I'm going to add to my app.js. But basically, it's going to be, I'm using Flex for the wrapper, and the board will be 8 by 8 grid, using grid. And then each one of these class will have the background image. And every one of them is going to be a div inside the board. So the element, right? The board element would be background size cover. Just the best way to show these images. And I specify the fixed width and height. So let's see what it looks like by changing my app.js here. So what I need here is I need to use candies.map. And I'm mapping each candy to the div, right? But it was just gonna automatically type that. Okay, so in my div, just for the sake of kind of debugging, I constantly refer to the index. So I like to just display the index here. Then Here I will do class name. So this is the individual. Yeah, that will actually be, oh, oops, we're going back. So in order to get index, I need to pass the index in callback. So in the array.map, you're passing, you could pass up to two. First is the array element, the second is the index. Since I'm using index here, I'm passing it, and I do need class name here to be the actual color, which is the candy, right? So each individual element in the array are the yellow, green, purple, right? That's the color. And I just realized I made a mistake in my constant. So because in my images, I have blue, green, orange, purple, red, yellow. So in my constants, not pink, it's red. Okay, that's gonna throw some error later on. So that is that. Oh, I do need this to be stored to make it work. And I need a wrapper. So I'm gonna wrap this guy. Oops. Yeah. Oh. So the wrapper's class name is so now it's going to allow the style to be applied to the wrapper and the board, and each element has the color, which is the candy, the value of candy. So am I missing something here? It's not very readable. Yeah, it doesn't look right. Something is wrong. Okay, nope, that is correct. Oh, here's my, let's make more readable here. Yep, got it. Okay. So that should work, and let's see what it looks like here. Voila. So it's so that's my grid, 8 by 8, and this array contains the 64 colors, and each color is mapped to the class name, and it's pulling up the background images. Yeah, so that's a pretty cool starting point. Now we're gonna implement functions to allow the movements and drag and drop eventually, but the movements would include function to detect when a row of 4 appears. So like if I have 4 of the same, it's gonna detect that, or a row of 3 and column of 4 and column of 3, right? So to do that, we're gonna do, we're gonna add a function. I'm gonna add it right here. So the first function I'm going to implement is, I'm gonna call it check column of 4. And then, once I do the first one, all the 3 kind of just basically copy paste, but change a little bit. So, okay, so this function is going to check to see if column 4 pattern is formed. So I need an iterator. Iterate through. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So whenever 4, so you pretend that I have a column of 3, right? But when you're checking a column of 4, you're really checking all the way up to 39, because 40, there isn't going to be a 4, right? So you're iterating from 0 to 39. So we're going to stop at less than or equal to 39.
And so I'm gonna just create a constant is column of 4, right? How do I know it's 4? Well, if you go back to the drawing board, you know it's a column of 4 when the index is offset by 8, right? 20, pretend if 26 was also blue, then you would have 26 is blue, and 34, which is 26 plus 8, and 42 and 50, right? So you would do if I, right, and I plus width, and then I'm just kind of keep going, and I plus width of 3. So just for good measure, make sure I have my space. Right. And now I have, I need to know, so now I have that constant. I need to know what my decided color is because I'm comparing rest with my color, right? My decided color is the first one, and my logic will check for if is column of 4 this is a very powerful function, so this will return true if every one of the value returning callback returns true. So in my case, I'm mapping it to index. So if every color equal to decided color, then I found it. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something where column 4, I'm going to do something using the for each. So what it's going to do is going to, for each one of them, I will set the color to be, I'm going to set to blank. I want it to disappear. Okay. All right. So that's it. And I'm going to call it. In order to call it, I have to use another use effect. Passing the callback. And this time I want to trigger it when, well, it's always a good practice to pass the, so I'm going to put the callback function in here. So I'm going to pass, I'm going to be calling this function inside my use effect. And it's a good practice to always pass the function definition in the dependency so that when that definition changes, you're always pulling the latest. But of course, when the actual color changes, I would be checking it again. Right? So passing the candy's state there. Let's see, I think that should do it. So now if I refresh, I should hopefully see some color of 4 and then be set into blank. So let's try it. Remember, it's only checking for the column right now. So, oh, it's not working because not checking for this. Okay. What is wrong? Okay, I don't see any major error messages. So, okay. So I am checking the color column 4, right? And going from 0 to 39, constant. That's with. And
Okay, I know why, because I am not. I should be setting using this candy setter Just set it. Because without setting it, I'm not syncing it with the state. But to set it, I need to pass a copy of it. If I don't, if I just do it without the spread operator here, then it's just going to think that you're passing the same state value, which is not going to trigger a re-render, which is what you want. So now it should work. Okay, something funny. Okay, I need to set the interval because it's constantly checking. So yeah, it's gonna run out of memory, so I'm gonna kill it really quick. So I need to wrap this guy inside an interval for this to run. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the set interval function that's native to JavaScript. So it's gonna you're gonna pass the callback. Just the and here is I'm gonna say every 100 millisecond. I'll be checking. So when I run my use effect, it's going to be running this check and setting it to blank every 100 milliseconds. And because I have assigned it to this timer, so I can, yeah, this also needs to be wrapped inside the interval. And so my use effect would clear the timer when a user returns statement. So that's how it works. And around a clear interval, I would pass the timer I have initially set. And when the user returns statement, it's going to reset a timer or clear a timer when after it runs the function within use effect. So that's super helpful. All right, so that should work. Oh, yeah, that'll help. Just making sure we're still recording here. Okay, so let's refresh and watch when it's set to blank when a column of 3 or 4 is detected. Oh, it did not do that. That is really strange. Oh, it did. Okay, let's try again. Oh, duh, I don't have column of 4 yet. So column of 3 yet. So I was looking for column of 3 setting blank. It wasn't doing that. But so far I've only implemented column of 4. So looks like okay. It's a little harder to get that random generated with. Oh, there we go. So you see the 4 disappeared. Let's do the same thing for column of 3. It's gonna be super easy. So I'm just gonna copy and paste. And change 4 to 3. Like so. Command D will find all your 4s. And simply replace that to 3. Now I do have to change my index and increment that by 8. So 47 would be the last one I check. And I also don't need to check 4. I'm just stop at this time 3 and 2. Yeah, rest should be the same. I just have to add the function to here and also to here. Like so. Okay, so now my code should reset both 3 and 4. So 3, 3, 3, 3, perfect. Yeah, 3 and 4, perfect. All right, so I'm gonna copy the code to also check for the row like like so. And I'm gonna just change the function to say row of 4. I do have to change my index because I would need to stop at, so for row of 4, it's a little different. So I would run it from 0 all the way up to 4, and then 8 to 12, 16 to 20. So I basically would be running checks on kind of the left portion of my grid, all the 5, 6, 7, 13, 14, 15, and the inside, the entire right column, the 3 columns, doesn't need to be checked. So to do that, I'm just gonna manually put a do not check array here. I'm sure there's a better way of doing that, but I think this is pretty simple. Do not check. So for that, I'm just gonna list out all the indexes that it does not need to check. 5, 6, 7, 13, 14, 15, 20, 21, 22, 28, 29, 30, and 36, 37, 38, and 44, 45. Ooh, I think I'm off by something here. 5, 6, 7. Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. 5, 45, 46, 47. Wait, yeah, I am off. So 13 plus 7 is, oh, 21. 22, 23, about 29, 30, 31, minus 37, 38, 5. And then I'm going to be doing 53, 54, 55. Oh, I mean, Facebook do. And 61, 62, 63. Okay, 63 is the last element. Oops. Just making sure they look good. Okay, cool. Again, it's just manually putting in the ones that I do not need to check. So now my row of 4 obviously will need to change to row of 4. And that would just be an incremental 1. So don't need that. Oops. All right, so okay, so what I'm gonna do is if do not check includes my index, I can simply just have it iterate to the next index, right? That's easy. So I leave all the rest of the code the same. I can just use this one line of code to have this loop to skip and go to the next, iterate to the next index. Okay, so okay, that should do. That checks for row of 4. Now I just need to check it. I'm gonna put it right here. Check row of 4, and then of course add to the dependency. Check row of 4. All right, so that should do it. I just have to see if I can find the row of 4. It's gonna be a little hard. Okay, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that worked. I just have to copy the code to get my row of 3s. And all I have to do is change this to . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . 3, and then my do not block would be a smaller array, right? So it'd just be the last 2 elements in each of the rows. So I'm getting ready the first one for the. Okay, I'm sure there's a better way of doing it. Okay. Also, I would be stopping at 39. So for row 4, I would stop at 60. Row 3 would be 61. Yeah, 60 and 61. Okay. So that's a big bug. 60 and then 61. Okay. So of course I'm gonna do the fast one. And yep. All right, let's check. Oh, it's not working. Oh, I didn't add it to my dependencies and my use effect. So, okay. I'm gonna copy that here. Change it to, oh, wrong one. And yep, row of 3. So that should do it. 1, 2, 3, that worked. Okay, but my column of 3 is not working. Okay, that's super weird. Did I just do something? Okay, column of 4, row of 4. Oh, yeah, that is why. Column of 3. Column of 4, column of 3, row of 4, and row of 3. Yeah, that should do it. I don't know when I changed that. The unintended consequence of typo. So row, column, looks like it's working. All right, awesome. So what's next? Let's see, I've done that. So I've successfully created pattern of 3, 4 checkers. So I could do that. And then, so now what I want to do is I want to create a function that would move the gems down, right? So if I have the 3 empty ones, what needs to happen is all these tiles on top should slide down. So the logic would be that if I detect an empty tile below a tile, then I would swap them. Okay, so that's my logic. And when I do that, it would just, this one, we imagine swap with this empty one, and it keeps swapping all the way down. So it would create that downward motion. And then this one would swap with that one and keep coming down. So that's going to create a downward flow. So I'm going to call that function create move one down function 2, 3. So I'm gonna just create it right above. Create move one. Oh, I must have one down. Okay. So in here, I'm going to, oops, iterate again, right? Let's see, do I iterate all the way through? Oops. I totally lost my, just gonna rerun it and have it bring it up itself.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think I closed the accident. So, let's see. Yeah, so here I'm going to iterate through all the way to um 55 because last row can't check, right? So you're gonna stop at 55. You implement one down. So that's going to be my iterator. And okay. So I'm just swapping. So if my color below, right, below the current index, which is just offset is the width, which is 8, equal to blank, then I'm gonna swap it. I'm gonna set it to its self, current index. And then I'm gonna set the current index to blank. Right, all right. So this would work to the extent. You just kill mine. Yeah, not too. So, oh, I am not running it. Yep, made that mistake. So let me run it. Let me add this to here. Move one down. And I need to add to the function definition here. Okay, cool. So all the empty space should bubble up to the top, right? Now we create a new problem. All the empty space that's bubbled to the top need to be filled with newly generated random colors. So I'm gonna work on that in my moveOneDown function. I should also check. Okay. I should also check that if my I belongs to the first row. So first row is 0. And inside my for loop, I'm gonna check if first row includes I, oops, and these, and if it's empty, right? Then I'm going to generate that candy with a color, with the index being a randomly generated. No. Get, I think it's, yeah, get and color, no, right. So that'll generate colors. So okay, so what's going on here is move one down. Huh, this is interesting. Ah, I must have a typo. Okay, so it was all working here before. Let's see. Still, right? Oh my gosh. Just found out I introduced this typo because I was this happened before, but this is super frustrating because it's just like a line of code I kind of did autocomplete or something. So it messed up all my code. But it's working now. Down here and oops. Yeah, that's right. Cool. So I'm going to add the filler on top without messing up my code. So just here, so in my loop, if first row does include I and it's empty, then I will generate new color using my random function, which will generate a index. Let's get red color. Oh, okay. So now it should fill in. It's not. Okay. Something isn't right. So in my use effect, it's checking column row 4, column 3, row 1 down. Okay. What is missing? If first row, then I'll type out. Okay, so that makes sense. Okay, so it's filling it. It's bubbling up and filling it. So any point in time, you basically will never see a pattern that's 3 or 4 rows or columns because you immediately will bubble up and immediately fill it with random generated colors and go through that recheck every 100 milliseconds. Okay. So next, it's gonna be the fun, but also the most complicated part for me, because I was new to implementing any drag and drop. I've never done it before, actually. So I'm gonna implement drag and drop. Learn a lot, super fun. First, I'll do a simple one where in order to enable drag and drop for each one of the grid element, I need to reformat it a little bit for ease of reading. And is drag, wait, no, I think it's called draggable. Yes. And I need to set to true. So now if you look at my grid, yeah, all right. So then I need to add a lot of event handlers. So I'm going to need, first let me fix the issue here because I do need a unique key for each one of the colors so it doesn't complain in React. I'm just going to set to index since every index is unique. I'll move my class name there. And there's going to be a series of functions here that that I just kind of went through the tutorial and copied down all the functions. And so you have onDrag start, which is triggered when you start dragging something. And that's going to go to call a custom function that I will write. But onDrag enter, I don't really know what it does, but here I know that I'm not using it. So I need to set it to stop its default behavior by using, and I'm doing the same thing with 3 other event handlers. Drag over, and then drag leave. Okay, took care of that. And then the 2 other key event handler I will be using is on drop, which we'll call the drag drop function that I will write, and then drag and is the most important one here. Also custom function. So on drop is if you drag and drop to the tile that needs to be replaced, you call that. But once you release your mouse, your cursor, it will call the onDrag end. So that concludes the entire event. So let's first just console log out what I'm dragging here. Just right here. I've got 3 functions, drag start, and I'll get the event handler, and simply I will just get the e.target, and then I'm just going to copy paste. So on drag, start on drag, on drop, oops, drag drop. And then, okay, so I'm just console logging out all the 3 events, and I should be able to view that here. Okay, it's a little small, but okay, let's say I want to drag this guy. So you notice turn it into a green plus icon, and so I was dragging from 40 to 12. So 4 let me do this. So I'm gonna say drag start, drag drop, and drag end. Now I should be able to see the 3 console log. So 4 to 12, All right, drag star is 4 and drag end is 4, but drag drop did not fire. That must be a typo in my code. So drag drop did not fire. Interesting. Okay. Undrop. Okay. That's weird. Okay, so one on there. Oh, I found a typo. Oops. On drop. Now it should work. So if I try to drag from 4 to 12, drag start is 4, drag drop is 12, and drag end is 4. Cool. So that worked. Now I need to go back. So that was the typo. To my function. So now we need to implement each one of the functions. For drag start, so we're going to need to access the element that's dropping, that's being dragged. The e.target, you can tell what it printed out was the div, DOM, right? So what we really need is the index for. To do that, we actually need to add extra data attribute. Oops, pull this guy here. So you could add in a DOM any attribute with the data and prepend to any value. So you can say data ID equal to index. And then you can access that field later on using data set, which I'll show you. So I've got that. And if I were to rerun it again, it would show that in my DOM. So 13. Okay, cool. Now, instead of printing out console log out the entire DOM, I want to just show the actual ID. So what I want to do is data set e.target data set .id. So when I do that, you would just print out data ID. Okay, so let's try again. Cool, 5, 13, 5. Perfect. So this 5 is being dragged. 13 is the grid, the tile that's being replaced, and 5 is being dragged. All right, all works. So now I need to store the color that's being dragged in a state. So I'm going to create actually 2 states, the color being dragged and the color being replaced. Going all the way to where I have a state here. Candy being dragged. And no. And then the second one would just simply be, if you do Command D and if you just highlight the word that you want to replace, you do Command D, it's going to select from that point on every word that is equal to that, and you can just go ahead and replace it. I don't know why the cursor is in the wrong place. So try again. D. Okay, no, that's not what I want. Okay, it's quite weird. Usually you would highlight the word from that word on. So it didn't do that, but what I'm trying to say is so you did cool. Okay. So I created both 2 states to store to essentially memorize what the color being dragged and color being replaced. So here, obviously I'm going to delete all the console logs later on, but I just need to set candy being dragged to the ID. So e.target data set ID. Great. And then accordingly, I would be setting drag drop is the candy being replaced. So all right, and drag end. So that's really what I needed to do with the first two functions, is just to store, to memorize the dragged and replaced in the two state variables, and in drag end is where I'm going to implement all of my logic. So here. So what I need to do is when I replace it, right, I need to swap the color. So if I go back to my tile, so when I drag the green to the orange, I'm essentially need to have the logic where I will swap 13 with green and 5 with orange, right? So let's just do that right now. Okay, so I'm going to need a temp to go ahead store the candy being replaced, because that value will be overwritten and I'm going to lose it. So I'm going to go ahead, remember that. And then candy. So it's a little strange when I was following a tutorial that the author was actually overriding the state variable candies. Usually you set a state variable with a setter, but she was overriding it directly. But now I understood that it was temporary, because the function will then, in the use effect, if you notice, just gonna quickly go there really quick, because I had to like think about that. Because notice all the functions are called and then set candy was called. So eventually all the the setters is called, and a copy was made and all the values were synced. So that's totally fine. This would be equivalent to, traditionally I would have done it like, I would have like make a copy of it, and then I would probably just like use the copy to change the copy, right? But I guess to save memory, I imagine it's just more efficient if you do it directly, as long as you remember to use a setter. Anyway, that was something that I had to think about. So I'm going to say candy, candy, and I should have named it candy index being replaced, because it's really just the index we're talking about, but we're calling it just being replaced, equal to being dragged. So, and then of course, candies dragged equal to temp. So that's why I'm using temp, because if I didn't use this line here, line 36, line 37 would practically essentially override being replaced. And line 38, when I try to access it, I'm just going to have the same value, right? So that's what you got to do is always, when you're swapping values, you have to use temp to keep the value temporarily. So I'm done with the drag end. And yeah, I gotta set it. So actually, I have to set candies here. Oops. Do I need to do this? What would it be called? Because when I On drag end is when I end, it will get triggered. And yeah, I need to call it right here. So. Okay, so that should work. Okay, so now I'm gonna swap these two. Cool. Can I swap this one? Oops. Yeah. What if I swap this one? Yeah. Okay, it works. Obviously, you can see that the move that I just made is illegal, right? It's not valid. I could only move a color to the top, left, right, and bottom. So next, we're going to implement a valid move checker to make sure it's moving properly. To do that, I need to just going to do it here. So I am swapping, and then okay, create some room here. So this is kind of cool. I wouldn't have came up with that, but I would just create an array that obviously the candy, I have the state variable state storing the all the indexes where it's being dragged and placed. So I know that the valid moves are top, bottom, wait, no, sorry, the +1, -1 is just right and left. Top and bottom is the width, right? Because you're offset by the size of the row. And right, oops. Okay, so that is the four position that's valid. And then my Boolean is valid move would be if my valid moves, if oops, includes the candy bean. So if where I'm going, if the index where I'm going is one of the four positions, so if where I'm going is in one of the four positions. Okay, cool. Then that's a valid move. Okay, so then I will say if candy bean candy being dragged is, so if there is, it's not right. So if there is candy being dragged and is valid and oops, well, let me actually just do this, right? So so if it's valid and if I'm actually dragging something, then obviously I'm good. Then I just need to release candy being dragged. So meaning I need to reset that to null, right? So I'm done. Right, and then if it's not the case, if it's not valid, then I need to restore all the moves I did, need to reset it to before it's moved. So I need to like remove it back. So I'm essentially redoing this whole thing, reversing. So I'm reswapping, right? Let's copy and paste that. See? Okay. And then set candies here. So that's it, right? So now I can test my code that it won't let me to do those far moves. So if, for example, I could move it. I should not be able to move there. No, it didn't do it, right? So, but I could move it here. Wait, I could. Huh. It didn't allow me. So what happened there? I do not see anything wrong. So I should be able to move this one up. I commented out. Okay, so I commented out since it wasn't allowing me to make a legal move. So I would go back. Green. Okay, now it works. So, all right. Something is wrong. So now I'm checking being dragged is valid move. I'm setting it to null. Let me come to look. Is valid. And then, yeah, if else I would just do restore the move, right? Okay, so I should see the console log is valid. No, it's not valid. It doesn't think it's a valid move. Interesting. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. So on drag end, I'm going to console log out. Candy being replaced. Being dragged, right? Okay, so I want to make sure it's registering that. So it should show 20. Yeah. So it is valid, being dragged. And we should also, oops. What? Okay. Console log out the Boolean is valid. Okay, so it should definitely be valid. I'm not sure why. It is false. What? There must be a typo. I've done this before. Huh. So I think it's not valid, right? Okay, let's print out valid moves. So if I was going to drag 20, the valid move should be 19, 12, 19, 21, and 28. Oh, 12, 19, 21, and 208. What? Okay, because I get it now. Cool. Do you see that? So the reason is because it's instead of adding 20 plus 1, it's converting it to a string because width is a string. You know what? That is interesting. I don't think I encountered that, but okay, so what I can do is just simply, that's interesting because I added width over here and that totally worked. So, but here I think is a string. Oh, I know. Over here. Okay. Yeah, we have to be careful. So when I was setting this, instead of directly setting it, I need to do a parse. Oh, did I just, actually, I'm gonna copy both. All of it. Oops. Yeah, no, not that one. I'm just gonna copy this and then okay, so I need to make sure it's converted to an integer because it's a string from the DOM. Yeah, that is very important. Okay, now I should do it. Cool. That should totally let me do it. So, yep, is valid true. Cool. Yay. Phew. I remember going through that in the tutorial and like made a mental note like I got to remember this, but now I'm definitely going to remember to um, convert to integer when I have to access the DOM elements attributes. So I'm going to, I'll just get rid of my console log later on. So I've done the valid move checker, perfect. Okay, so another thing we have to check is we can't just move the yellow to the green, right? We can only move if like this, if I'm moving into a group of 3 or 4, right? Row or column. So I could move this to here, but I shouldn't be able to move this to here, correct? All right, so now in my validation here, I need to also add, so you have to check that I'm dragging something, it's a valid, and whether it's going to result in a row of 4, column of 4, 3, right? So it's going to be a massive or logic block where I already have function I wrote, right? So I'm going to check column of 4 or before I can finish here, this function needs to return a Boolean. Let me just make sure that I was doing that. Okay, I wasn't, right? So here, I'm not returning anything. I'm just setting it to blank. So what I need to do is actually have a is column. of 4 and set to false, right? And then at the end, I need to return it. But whenever the if statement is true, after I set it to blank, I also need to set it to true. And I need to return that. So I have to add 3 lines, 1, 2, 3. In every function, I'm going to be doing that. I'm just going to be copying it, changing it. So column 3. And inside here, and now I'm doing row. Is row of 4. Oh, last one, let is row of 3 equal to false. And inside if is row of 3 equal to true. And turn is row of 3. Okay, so all of them should be returning a boolean, and I can go back to my drag end. And yeah, so I'm just checking, check row of 4, or check column of 3, check column of 4. Okay. Oh, no, row. What did I do? Oh, yeah, here. So, all right. So that should work. Space here. And now it should not allow me unless I'm moving into that situation. Okay, so let's say if I try to do this. I did. Interesting. It actually did. So allow me to do that. Okay, that's not right. It's a valid move, correct, but you should have checked. Oh, I am not calling the function, I'm just doing the function definition. Boy. I can probably have 4 states again, but I didn't do that. I can probably create a state variable that would say pattern found, and then in my check a column of 4, I would just set that pattern found state. I think I'm gonna do that. Would that be a good idea? Yeah, why don't I just do that? I think that's easier. So const pattern found set pattern found use, and that'll be false, right? Initially. So, and then in my function, I would instead of returning the boolean, I would yeah, I will set pattern found to be true. And then I'll just copy this to all of them. I'll just keep the other one there still. Right. So in my function here, I would instead of this big one, I can just say is pattern found. Okay. Okay, now it will allow me to do that, but it shouldn't allow me to do this. It did. So why is that? Mm. Mm. Okay, so let me just console log out before I would do. So I know this one pattern found. Pattern found. Oh, mm, yeah. Change. Okay, so I should definitely turn. Huh, interesting. I think my pattern found is true when I did that. So why is it true? Because it checked previously. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, because it had already ran through the rendering and it did find 304, right? So obviously the state variable is not a good idea. So go back to the drawing board here and okay. Interesting. Okay, so I can't do it this way. Yeah, so I need to run the function and get rid of that. Go back. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, the previous didn't work because I named this Boolean the same name as um my array here, even though yeah, so that's not gonna work. I just have to change that found. Oh my God. Now I know. Okay. This is, you know what? I don't have to actually say it is. So just pattern found. then I can use that for all my functions. Okay. Phew. Oh, it's confusing. Wow, yeah. So the variable names are identical. And I'm just basically, it's always going to be true because this variable here is row 4 is a array. And obviously it's always going to be true. So that's why it was allowing me to make illegal moves. All right, so now, don't you just hate these errors, these mistakes? But here we go. I think I did them all. Pattern found, pattern found. Yep. Okay, cool. So now it shouldn't allow me to make illegal. Oh, it did. Something else happened. Is pattern found not defined? Yeah, no. I have not changed my logic here. So drag end. Yeah. Okay, so here, gonna go back to that for block. So check column of 4, make sure I'm calling the function, not just passing function definition. Check row of 4. Check column of 3. Check row of 3. That should work, but it shouldn't allow me to do this. It did. Oh my God. What else is wrong? Is pattern found not defined? I am still doing is pattern. Oh, here. Yeah, of course. Okay. Is that it? Yeah. All right. So you should not allow me to do that. Nope. Cool. Errors. But it should allow me to do this. Also, I cannot. I shouldn't have to do that. Should not allow me to drag it totally out of it. I already checked that before, so that should work. That's legal. Okay, so I think I'm pretty much done here. What else? Yeah. So just to sum it up, my drag and drop is implemented by adding the triggers from in the DOM, and I'm really only using on drag star, drag drop, or on drop and on drag end. Rest of the 3, I'm just doing the prevent default to make sure it's not displaying default behavior, whatever that is. And bulk of my logic, it's in on drag end. So on drag star is when you are just starting to drag, you're clicking on, your mouse is still clicked, right? You're moving and that green cursor appears. But when you drop it, when you release the cursor, the on drag end would trigger, and that's where you would wrap all the logic in there. So in the first 2 function on drag star and drag drop, I'm just creating and setting the state variable to make sure I can access those 2 indexes, right? And just remember, use parse integer to get the actual numerical value, not the string value, because I'll be using it. And we had issue with doing arithmetic computation using that. So string value was cause errors later on. And then in my drag end, initially I just implemented, like I wasn't checking whether it's valid or legal. I would just like, okay, if you drag a drop, I'm gonna allow you, and I'm just swapping those 2 positions. Then I added valid moves to make sure I can only move to top, bottom, left, and right. Then I added to make sure I can only move to a place where there's gonna form a pattern of column and row 3 and 4, right? So And I obviously have to check whether I'm dragging. So those are the few things that I added. And then the if and then, if else was you first do the move, then you check. So if the move is legal, then you would just set the state to be null, right? So you reset it. And if it's not, you reverse it. So I could probably do the check before I would do the move. So I could do that. If I was to do that, then I would, okay, so let's just do that because it's a little awkward, I thought. So if you would just do, yeah, so like if I would console log out this, right? So if I would comment out this, then I would say if I still do that, I would do this inside. And then if not, I would do nothing, right? Yeah. So the set candies would be here. Okay, let's try it again. So this would be not allowed, right? So I can't do that, and I can't do that, right? Can I do this? No. Okay, but I should be able to do that. It wasn't allowing me to do that either. That's interesting. So I did not, oh, I should set it right away. Okay. So if I'm going to find a legal move. Okay, so that should be allowed. Huh. Is valid, true. It's not happening. What's going on here? So it's valid, then you are swapping and you're setting it. That's interesting. So this is a really big mistake I made. But wow. So the reason that it's not allowing me to make a valid move is because it wasn't entering this logic state, the if. Because the if is saying candy being dragged is valid, right? This is true. This is true. It is valid. But when you check column of 4, 3 patterns, of course the pattern isn't found because we haven't made the move. So because I changed my code from go ahead and make the move, then check, to don't make the move and check. Obviously, I'm checking for a state that hasn't happened. So that all of the function here, check, was returning false, right? Because the check is only valid if you actually made the move and you form a pattern. I got confused. I did this. The confusion happened because in my if statement, is valid move is checking a hypothetical move, but all the rest checkers are actual. It would only return true if the pattern would form, but you haven't made the move, so it wouldn't form. So I have to go back to, I added all this code and everything was returning false. And I was like, why is it happening? And I realized what happened. So my code change doesn't work. So I'm going to go back to what I had before, which is go ahead and make the move. And then I would check. And I would set candy to null. And then if it's not a good move, not the right move, I would reset it back, and then set candy would go all the way up. That okay, that worked. Whew. Learned quite a bit here. Okay, so now would cool. Yeah. Okay, just going back to the code again, just kind of going through rid of the walk. Okay, yeah. So in this function, I'm making the move regardless whether it's legal or valid. Then I'm checking. If everything passes, I let it reset my state of drag and drop or drag and replace to null. If it doesn't pass my checker, I would revert the move. Because my candy setter is done at the end, so you wouldn't see the changes, you wouldn't see the rendering until I've passed all the checks. So I'm just manipulating my array at this point without having to re-render. Actually, I probably should re-render. Yeah. So even though I'm re-rendering after the setter here, but because I didn't actually change my candy state, all these changes were not through the candy setter. So you're not going to see any changes on the screen until this function is called. So cool. All right, that's it.